Hello everyone, welcome back. Tonight I decided I was going to do something a little different, circling back to the material design in Xaml library. But more importantly, I wanted to address one of the pain points that's been kind of plaguing the library for a little bit. So when I first joined the project there, oh boy, several years ago, it was using AppVer as its CI/CD pipeline. And one of the issues there was it was not always obvious to people what was going on in the pipeline, when it was failing, and why. And more importantly, I wanted to expand it to do more automation. So at the time, I had moved it over to Azure DevOps, which has been great for now, except for since that point, GitHub has come out with their own CI/CD. For people who haven't seen it, called Github Actions. It's actually rather cool. And the tight integration with GitHub sort of makes it really ideal for open source projects out on GitHub. So I figured tonight I would take a look at taking some of the pipelines that I've got in DevOps and see what we can do to move those into GitHub Actions, and then go from there and just see what we can do that's possible. So let's jump over. And actually, before I get going, I just want to call out one thing. So this past week, I did a talk for the Spokane.net user group. It was hosted by my company, Untitled, and the recording will be up probably in the not too distant future. There is their YouTube channel. Ooh, my chat box is stream elements unlock. And I need Twitch chat, that box, to move up, and at least there it's off to the side. So I need to work on adjusting that. We'll circle back to that later. But there is the link if people are interested, or you can just search for Intellitech on YouTube. You can see some of the past user group talks if people are interested in Essential C# 9, or if you're interested in GitHub Actions. A couple of my colleagues, Phil and Steve, did a great talk for the Spokane DevOps user group. So just with COVID being around, if people are interested in learning, getting involved in these types of user groups are great. It's a great way to learn new information or meet people in the area, and just to network, especially if you may be new to the industry. It's an easy way to kind of get to know people, figure out who's hiring, that kind of thing. So lots of good information there. Okay, so let's talk about the material design in Xaml library. Make that a little bigger. Make that a little bigger, and let's talk about what's here. So most people, when they think of the CI/CD process, they're usually thinking around pull request validation, right? And that is effectively what one of the pipelines here is doing. So there is, in the library, there's an Azure pipelines.yaml file, right? And you can see there's a couple things that it does. One is it auto triggers a build on every merge into the master branch, and it also triggers on PR builds into the master and release branches. This is a dated thing. We haven't really been using this branching strategy. This is kind of a remnant of the migration from AppVer a while back. So there's some stuff about the VM image and all of the stuff that it does, right? And for the most part, it works fairly well. But at the end of the day, all it ends up really doing is compiling the code, running the tests on the code, running some UI tests on the code, and then publishing a bunch of artifacts, right? There's publish all my NuGet packages that got built, publish any screenshots that were generated from the UI tests, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? There's a ton of stuff going on in here, and it would be nice to kind of start to address some of these potential issues, right? So that is one pipeline that's out there. But that's only one of the pipelines that actually exists for this project. So there's another build pipeline, this guy here. Let's take a look at this, called control styles. So this guy here, no trigger, no PR trigger, right? It's actually apparently running on an old version of Windows, and I say old because, VS 2017. And it's just basically kicking off a PowerShell script that generates some Markdown for the Wiki page. So if we go over here and look at the Wiki, there is a control style. So all control style. it's generating this big thing here, right? And this kind of gets into a separate topic that we might get to tonight, we might not. So if you're interested in digging through this, this is one easy place to go through and get to it. But this guy here, I believe if we look at, no, not settings, is it triggers? No. Build completion. So when the main build finishes, this guy gets kicked off, right? So if a build finishes on the master branch from that other pipeline, this pipeline then triggers and goes and updates the wiki page so that everything that's out on the master branch keeps the wiki nice and sync. Great. That's wonderful. That's kind of nice. But wait, there's more. There's actually a couple other things. So that first pipeline goes through and it actually generates as part of it a bunch of artifacts. So specifically, if we look over here, all right, we'll just pick on one of the latest builds. This guy here, once the icon update merged in, it published a bunch of artifacts, and we can click on them. You can see it publishes a compiled version of the demo application. It publishes up a NuGet package for the main library, the colors library, the Ma apps integration. It publishes some scripts for doing some work in other pipelines. And then obviously it even publishes some screenshots for any of the potentially failing tests. I'm actually a little surprised that this kind of indicates a bug, the fact that there's so many of these screenshots in here. Might have to look into this. But some of these look like they might just be, oh, it's just genning folders up. That's a bug. I should fix that. But ultimately, the end result of the build pipeline is a bunch of artifacts that this pipeline then consumes. So let's take a look at this. And you'll note this is what's using the Azure DevOps classic release pipelines. There's a newer version of this where the entire release pipeline is stored in YAML, which is great. And apparently there is some settings need attention. Agent pool isn't set. Interesting. Windows 2019, please. So apparently this guy needs some configuration that apparently hasn't been, for whatever reason, is unset, which is not good. I'm just going to save that real quick. For some reason, it's still been working, which is a little shocking. And that is one of the other things that has flustered me a little bit, is trying to make sure that all the right notification settings get set and pass through. But this pipeline has two purposes. So one, hey, how you doing, Sean? We are going to convert some DevOps pipelines to GitHub Actions. That's the game plan. We'll see how we do. But this release pipeline takes the build artifacts and on a scheduled trigger at 3 a.m. just kicks out the release, right? So I can merge a whole bunch of PRs, because quite often what happens is I get a stack of PRs or a bunch of changes, or I'm working on something and I'll just, put in 3 or 4 changes. I don't want to kick a NuGet package for every single one of those changes, right? So I just have a nightly process that says, hey, at the end of the day, if there's been any changes since the last 3 a.m., go ahead and kick it out, right? So it'll kick out a preview package on NuGet.org, and this one here sits on an approval gate. So there's nothing fancy here, no timer. It just sits there and waits for me to click the button to say go ahead and go, right? So if we look at this guy here, right? So you can see it's been release number 2 was the last time, because this is you can see there was an old version of this and then an updated version. This pipeline was giving me problems, so set it up, and so release number 2 went out, and now we've got it just slowly walking its way up. And then this guy here is just waiting for me to say, oh, yep, it is time to go ahead and click the button, right? And you'll note it did time out because of it's old and stale, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and take a crack at some of these. Oh, one last pipeline to point out, and I think because this is the one that I'll probably start with, since I think it's the easiest. We'll see. This icon update. So inside of the library, there's the pack icon, right? And so if we go and take a quick peek-see at that, and I'm kind of hoping it doesn't. I'm kind of hoping this guy doesn't fall over. Good. You can see my little scroll bar. It's itty bitty, itty bitty. So there's a few members on this enum. I don't know exactly how many, but we could say a couple, right? So there's a lot, and it should probably shock no one that I did not write that enum by hand. My time is way too valuable. You'll note I also gen up release notes. So in the 4.0 release, we added another 1,300 items to that enum. Now, granted, there was a few that we dropped, but yeah, there's a lot there, right? That's kind of big. So what we end up doing is, as part of this pipeline, this guy just clones the repo down. He does a .NET run on one of the projects to be able to, and you'll note the path to the projects is empty only because the working directory is set directly into the MD resource generator folder, right? So it runs that tool, passing it a switch of icons, right? Saying, please go ahead and run that. And then it just goes through and runs a git status check to look for changes, specifically in that packicon.cs file. And then it just pushes up and opens a PR, right? So if we go and look, this is the most consistent PR ever, right? So if we look, you'll note here's one of the ones that was generated. So you'll note I've genned up this material design service account thing. Auto-generated pull requests. Icon update detected by Azure Pipeline. And whoop. The wonderful part about doing it this way is that when I don't have to remember to go and update the icons, because frankly, I had gotten quite a few bugs that were, hey, I see this icon out on the Material Design Icons website, but I don't see it in your library. It's like, yes, I haven't run the tool in like a month. I'm sorry. Now it only takes a day. So if you don't see something in this library that exists out on their website, wait 24 hours. It'll probably be there. So, or at least the pull request will be opened. And I typically, if this thing's build automatically passes, I just auto merge it. I don't bother reviewing it. It's one of those, there's so few changes in here. It's like, yep, great. It found account I as a new pack icon type and account I outline. Great. Couple more icons, bring them in. So I think this is going to be the one, because this is probably the simplest of all of the pipelines that I have in DevOps. My goal is to take it out of DevOps and put it in GitHub Actions, just for the tighter integration, easier feedback loop, and more importantly, it makes these pipelines editable by everybody, right? This is an open source project, and right now, by having this in a release pipeline, it means not everybody can see what's going on, and only a couple of us can actually edit it, which is kind of sucky. So I would much rather have it in a YAML file, in the repo, in a GitHub action, where if there's a bug and some other person wants to help work on it, great, let's make that possible. So that's the game plan. Let's see what we can do. So GitHub Actions. We are going to do .NET-y things. So that sounds like we're going to start here. Okay, and we don't want to call this, cancel, leave. Let's go back again. I clicked. Apparently, if you hit backspace, it'll actually let you walk up the tree, and that's not what we wanted. Okay, so I just don't want to call this .NET YAML. Let's call this icon update YAML. That sounds more like what we're interested in. Okay, so a couple things here. So the first little bit of going on is just a couple things. So talk to you later, Sean. So there's some branch filters that they auto set up, and then you'll note they set it up to run on Ubuntu latest. Now, the Ubuntu build agents are usually pretty quick. Sometimes they can even be faster than the Windows ones, which is a bit of a blessing and a curse. The problem is I don't think and let me get the library open real quick. I don't think the resource gen project is net core. I think it's still net framework, if I'm not mistaken. So let's just pop this guy open real quick. and just take a quick look, because I have a sinking suspicion, and it may be worth spending a little bit of time in revving this guy up to core. Ooh, we could even do it on system command line. Oh, I don't know if I said that. For the user group, that was what the talk was on, it was showing off system command line. Here, let's get it real quick. Quick detour. So system command line, which some people, command line API. So if you aren't familiar with it, it's this library here, which is a lot of fun. So if you're doing anything command line-y based, I highly recommend you check this out, and that recording. The other thing is on my YouTube, you will note that there is also a playlist specifically devoted to, oh, where is it? System command line. So if you are interested, I've got a whole list of videos about them. Whole list. Okay, so let's come over here. So it is a net core application. So it should run cross-plat, and there's no reason I know of that it won't. We may rev this up to net 5 or something just to have some fun with it, but net core 3.1 is perfectly fine. So let's go back here. And so we're going to do 3.1x because that's what we need here. This will run a .NET restore, .NET build, no restore because the restore was already done. And then it wants to run tests. So we're going to get rid of that because this isn't quite your normal pass. But this is a pretty good starting point. .NET build. Now, the next thing I kind of want to do is set working directory. Yeah, that thingy. Okay, so let's take a little look-see. What is the working directory? I think it was just MD resource gen. So yeah, so we want to do something like that, right? To move that down. And actually, I think I want to change this up here too for the restore. So checkout will get me the source code. This will make sure I've got an agent with .NET Core 3.1 installed. This will do a .NET restore, and because there's only one CS proj inside of this project, it'll just pick it up, right? Same as if you were to run this on the command line. So restore build. Okay, so let's go back here now. So we don't need this. That's already handled for us. We do need to do a .NET run. I'm kind of wondering if we just skip all of this stuff and go straight to let's do that. Let's just skip all of this and go straight to a .NET run. Whoop, caps lock is not your friend. So we are going to leave the restore on there. And you'll note there's a couple things that are going on here. So this thing has a build configuration and a -- icons. I don't think build configuration is set to release. I don't know if that actually matters, but we're going to roll with it. So release, and then go back to my tasks. And then -- and you'll note this is a -- space icons, and that's actually important. So what this ends up denoting is when you're executing a .NET command, there's a separation between the options and arguments that you're passing to the .NET versus things that you want to pass to the application that .NET run is going to run. So the double hyphen is the separator between those. So everything after the double hyphens is what's going to get sent to my actual running application. So the thing that's going to get passed into my main method, right, as the string args. Whereas this is going to get passed into, let's see if I can make that a little bigger. Whereas this configuration release is going to get passed to .NET run to tell it, hey, while you're doing this, when you compile, the configuration I'd like to use is release. So that goes there. Okay, that was a little easy. Next up. Now we need to do some PowerShell-y stuff. And there's a couple things that are fun about this. So this one isn't doing anything fancy. But you'll note this guy has to have a service account and all this connection stuff. This is another perk of GitHub Actions. If you're just interacting with stuff on a GitHub repository, it is significantly easier inside of GitHub Actions. So I want PowerShell. There's a no. PowerShell hello world. This isn't what I want. No. Stay here. Let's start a commit. And let's just do work in progress because I don't create a new branch. GitHub Actions icon update. Right? So propose new file. Work in progress. Create PR. And we'll keep iterating on this here in a minute. But I want to go and look up GitHub Actions documentation because the docs for this are actually really good. There's also a live stream you can find where Phil and I went over some GitHub Actions stuff. Where is the... Is it under essential features? There's something here around the adding scripts to your workflow. That's what I want. Shell. Oh, so it's literally I just give it a run command. Is it really? That is ridiculously easy. Now the question I have is, what are my options for the shell workflow syntax? What do you give me? Run, job step run, using a specific shell, because I kind of want to do PowerShell. Oh, PWSH. How lovely. Oh, and you'll note, if you want to do Bash, PowerShell, or Python, doesn't matter what platform. Pick your favorite. You're good. You're good. It's just gonna work. But if you want full PowerShell, not PowerShell core, that is a small important distinction, right? They aren't exactly the same, right? There are some differences. Not usually significant for most people, but worth noting. Just in the interest of me not having to change up what I am doing. Since I've already got PowerShell written. Oh, well, and that's exciting. So it's already had its first run and already had its first failure. So that is exciting. We are going to circle back and figure out why that failed in a minute because I wasn't actually expecting that failure. Let's go here because I kind of want to just switch to my branch. And you'll note it just goes inside of a .github workflows folder. So we're going to drop this guy in. Yeah, so this is why it ran, right? Because I opened a pull request against the master branch, therefore this triggers. So we're going to keep editing. So so I'm going to delete this. Ultimately, I don't want it triggering on pull request. I want this triggering on a timer or a manual trigger. I think either, and that would be something nice to add while we're in here. Why not? We'll add features during this conversion. Okay, so we need to unindent that. I need to indent you. Okay, and I want to grab these because I wrote this lovely little bit of script. And so we're going to come over here, and this is YAML. Let's see. What did I call it over here? About push changes. All right, so we're going to come over here. We're going to go whoop. And I think it is that. Okay. Okay, so YAML white space. There's a wonderful website, and it is multi-line strings, because it is sort of wonderful to try and keep track of this. So block chomping. All new lines from the end. Keep them, please. I guess it really doesn't matter too much. Replace new lines with spaces folded. Keep new lines literal. I guess that doesn't really make a difference. Indentation by 2 spaces. So if we just do that. So for anybody, because YAML is so easy to use, we only have an entire website devoted to learning it. That goes away, that goes away, that goes like that. Okay. So that gets me into that situation, right? Because this lines up with how this goes, right? So pay attention to the, zoom this guy in, pay attention to the new lines there. Those are important. I'm going to just pin that tab because something tells me I'm going to need it. Okay. So I think for the most part, this just works. There's a subtle thing that happens in this pipeline. You'll note on the clone, it's actually doing something like this. And it's also doing an explicit checkout and creating a branch here. So there's kind of two things going on. And I'm kind of wondering if this needs to occur as part of this. Boom. Kind of think that might be important. Okay, so we're going to leave it like that for the moment. I do want to look at actions checkout. So let's see. There are, how about GitHub Actions checkout? Because I think there is a, yeah, this guy. I think there were extra options available on this. Repository ref token. Persist credentials. Defaults to true. Excellent. See, this is gonna make working with GitHub repos so much easier. No more of this fancy stuff. Okay, so simply by having the action, right? This should do all the stuff, right? This will then get us onto the right branch. I don't know if I actually even need to do this anymore. We're going to leave it. Mostly so that it displays the way I expect. And we're going to change this string. Icon update from GitHub Actions. Woot woot. And then it push origin. Okay, so that gets me to there. And then the last thing we need to do is something that I'm not 100% sure on. Now, here's the beautiful part, right? So I pulled in this third-party thingy for creating a GitHub pull request because it was a very simple little task that I needed, right? I just wanted a convenient thing that said, hey, create a pull request for me, right? And more importantly, it had this nice little upsert thing. So this guy will keep track of, hey, is there already PR open? If there is, don't stress, right? You push to the branch, we're good, right? However, obviously I can't do that, but I'm pretty sure we are going to have all kinds of options. See, this is not quite what I wanted, which makes me wonder if it's already built in more or less, right? So let's actions. Starter workflows. Let's just Google. I'm sorry. We're going to Bing. GitHub Actions, create pull request. Because the other thing is there's stuff like, there are like CLI stuff, but yeah, see, create pull request. Create a pull request. Check repository for changes in the Actions workspace. This include. Oh, so I might not even need to write my PowerShell. Oh, you are going to make this way too easy. Thank you, Mr. Peter Evans. Also, so this GitHub token is a free one that the GitHub agent will automatically populate for you. You can always change it to be something else. And the only reason you'd really need to change it is if you needed it to potentially reach into maybe a different repository or similar, right? Because this, I'd have to pull the docs. This token is scoped basically for just sort of the basic interactions of what you would do for your repository, which in like the 90% case is exactly what you want, right? But if you need something more advanced, you got to swap it out. Commit message, committer, author. Oh, this is just too easy. This is just too easy. Oh. Oh, Mr. Peter Evans, you are my best friend right now. So we're gonna just get rid of all of this, I think. Right? That's not what I wanted. Copy that. Because that is, oh, I'm sorry. I did not open up Karnak. Let's get that guy going. Yeah, so this is going to become really easy, really fast. This is going to be good. Okay, so let's get this thing set up. So it's got a commit message. Great. That we would like to set that. So let's set that. Right? And it will be I'm sorry. These need to be indented, don't they? Right? Is that how that works? What's the show me the sample. Create pull request. Oh, with. That's right. Still trying to remember the syntax. So with colon, then I dump my stuff in. Okay, so let's look over here. This guy was using the commit message, I believe. We're gonna do this. And we're going to go here. So the commit message will be something more akin to, let's see here. I think what we can do is we can do the same thing we did a second ago, colon space, backspace, enter 1, 2. And then this will be indented. GitHub action, and I kind of liked what they did with that. We're gonna just drop that. Okay, so let's go back and keep looking at this guy. What else you got for me? Let's just keep working our way down. So commit message, committer name and email address. What is the difference? The author name and email address in the format. I kind of want to change both of these. Yeah, I kind of want to change both of these. So we're going to come back here, committer, and I need to put this display name space email address. Yeah, and it needs to have the little less than, greater than signs. Okay, so let's use the same stuff that we had here. Let's see, so name looks like this. And email address looks like this. You are free to email this address if you'd like. It never gets checked. It's pretty much a dummy account. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing, only with author. Great. Let's continue down our merry way. I'm going to move this over. Sign off. No. Branch. Pull request branch name. Yeah, so we want to change that too. So I want this branch to be, because in an ideal world, nobody should know that we did anything different, right? It should be transparent. So we're going to go there. Great. This is delete branch when closing pull request and undelete after merging, recommended true. I didn't realize this was a thing, so we're going with that. Branch suffix. No, we don't care that. Sets the pull request base branch, default the branch to the branch checked out in the workflow. I kind of want to be explicit about this. So we're going to go there. Push to fork. I don't really care. If people want to run this on their own forks, there's no reason for me to make it hard. So title, let's change that. Right, and we'll check and see what this guy was. Update icons, and obviously we're gonna kind of change this a little bit. So rather than Azure Pipelines, GitHub Action. Right, and then body of the pull request. Oh, this is the message bits. Got it. For some reason, I thought we'd already done that. I think I did on the other side. So there's that. This is the commit message. This is the body. Does it default? It doesn't default to something useful. So let's just put the same little bit in here. Like that. Boom. Okay. And then labels, don't care. Assignees, don't care. Reviewers. Now, here's one thing that I would really love to do is have it automatically drop itself in the right milestone. That would be a nice feature. Not a today feature. Because it would save me 2 whole clicks. And I'm all about saving 2 whole clicks. Okay. Action outputs, blah, 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 blah. Now, the only thing it's not telling me is what it's going to do. Will it do that upsert? Don't think it's going to tell me. Doesn't seem to say here. But we're gonna keep this guy around. Alternative strategy. For some use cases, creating an updating a fixed branch name. Yes, that is exactly what I want. Thank you. All of the defaults on here are wonderful. This is beautiful. Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you. Very, very, very much love this action. And that is the wonderful part. There are here, let's just quick demonstration. Marketplace, GitHub Actions. There are currently 8,000 options available to you. And the other thing, these aren't that hard to build either. So, lots of reasons to do this. Mostly because unlike a lot of CI/CD ones, either the free and open ones are hard to extend, or there's not a great one out there. Like Azure DevOps is the closest competitor to GitHub Actions, and GitHub Actions is kicking butt. Just gonna throw that out there. Okay, so this should do everything. Let's fix this because I don't want this anymore. I want the on bits. So on, right? So on push, on pull request. I don't want any of that. I want to trigger on manual, and I want to trigger on a schedule. On schedule. That sounds about right. Okay, so on schedule cron job. Wonderful. That sounds like what I want. On schedule, doot, doot, cron job. Now, I am horrible at cron format. Yeah. So I want every day. So I need to figure out this is not helpful. There's a different page I'm thinking of. There we go. This one. Okay, so minute 0, hour 3 a.m. Day, month, week, right? Every day at 3 a.m. That sounds remarkably like exactly what I want. Yeah, so we're gonna go with that. We come back over here, and we go is a special character in YAML, so you have to quote this string. Thank you. Action schedules run at most every 5 minutes. That's fine. I only want it on a daily process. I don't need it more often than that. That's good enough. Okay, the other thing I want is I want to be able to click the button and have it go. So, trying to remember the name of that thingy. I know it exists, but there is like a manual. It's like a workflow, or the name I cannot remember. Let's start here. On push, on pull, on created, on event types, on branches and tags, and yada yada yada. Exclude branches, exclude. Example, ignoring paths. On schedule. Workflow commands. There's okay, back to the Google. GitHub action manual trigger. I know it exists. Workflow dispatch. That's the magical incantation. I want workflow dispatch. Give me your docs. No, that isn't it. There is a button for it with workflow dispatch. On workflow dispatch. It's that easy. Okay. Why wasn't that in the docs? Huh. I would have expected to see it right there. Apparently not. On boom, workflow dispatch. And we don't need to pass anything to it. This should all be fine. Start commit. Sure, we'll commit directly into my branch. Okay, so that should not have triggered a run, right? Which it didn't, which is what we expect, right? So we've got, ooh, I wonder, how does one rename? I guess it's not a problem that is under .NET. I was just hoping to be able to rename it. Do you give me an option, or are you just trying to be helpful? Okay, so I expect to be able to run you actions. That is not letting me run it. I would like to run you. Filter by event, pull request. I realized this one was triggered by pull request. The trigger workflow receives the inputs in the GitHub events, blah, blah, blah. You now that are manually triggered, right? This workflow has a dispatch workflow event trigger, right? On workflow dispatch. Do I need to actually specify empty inputs, even if I don't use them? Is that the that the dealio? Give me back onto my other branch. Config. Nope, not where I wanted to be. GitHub. Workflows. Icon update. I wonder if you want... Value cannot be null. Well, I don't have any values to give you. Where... Actions tab. I wonder if it doesn't trigger until it's added to the... That wouldn't seem right. It would seem oddly restrictive to not allow you to get access to it. Because this is what I'm looking for, is this little doohickey here. Get on workflow dispatch. Okay, that seems simple and straightforward. Let's go back here. Oh, this is why the name. Icon update. So we're going to do this. And actually, maybe what we do for now is we just comment this. Workflow dispatch, right? Yeah. Okay. Start commit. Commit directly in actions. I guess the hard part is how do I get it? I need it to show up here before it actually. I've got a chicken and the egg problem, don't I? I think I do. Okay, let's cheat for a moment then. So let's go back to putting the, or actually let's leave. Yeah, show me the history, please, and let's just grab the pull request one, right? And then we will one more edit. We'll add this back in for now. Boom. And now it should trigger. There we go. And I think it should, now that I have it here, I don't understand why I'm not getting the option to manually run. Huh. That is very, very interesting to me. Okay, let's let this guy run and we'll address the triggering problem next. Okay, so what was that build error? So it's unhappy about something. Icon thing CS. String does not contain a definition for underscore or no accessible underscore. Well, that's not good. So there are a ton of NU 1701 errors in here of failed to restore, failed to restore, failed to restore, which, yeah, we might just deal with revving this guy real quick. So let's go here. So let me get everybody's favorite tool, Get Kraken, obviously. We'll make this a little bigger for people. What changes do I have? Don't know if I care about those changes. Let's get rid of that for the moment. And we can switch over to our branch. So just double click. Gets us onto our branch and switched, and everybody's happy. Come down here to MD Resource Gen. So ideally what should happen, if I, all right, so go here, MD resource gen, right? So we are running a .NET. Well, we're running a .NET run, but let's kick off a .NET build first. And let's just see if we can recreate this locally, because that would be ideal. Now, the one thing that's going to be a little different, that's what I was worried about, is I've got newer SDKs installed than what that one has there, which may cause some slight differences. Slight. Just due to how that works. The other thing that's going to be a little different is there is a global JSON, I believe. Yeah, let's take just a quick look at that, because that's going to affect it. See, I wonder if that makes any difference, because it doesn't seem to. .NET clean, .NET build. Okay, that is unfortunate. Let's take a look at the start of this here. So, project dependency does not include a lower bound. So it really wants the lower bounds added on all of these. And this is ultimately the problem here, is Humanizer 0.1 was restored. Yeah, so it pulled ye olde version. So why? Oh. That's interesting. I wonder why it didn't pick it up. So the reason this is like this so there's a small but important difference in how I open this. So there is multiple solutions at the top, right? There's the resource generation, and then there's the full. And so this is actually a subtle change. Wow, I'm wondering why I'm getting different behavior on the build agent. That's the part that surprises me. So I'm pretty sure what's going on. So let's close up all of this and I'll explain. Close all tabs. So we are using a newish feature of NuGet for centralized package management. So up here at the very top, you'll note we've got this magical file called directory package props. And you'll note it defines the versions for all of our packages. Now, the nice part with this is that there is one centralized place where I can go and rev a package version, and then each of my individual projects, right? So like the MD resource gen, all they do is they declare, hey, I'm going to use the Humanizer project, right? Nothing fancy. I just want access to that. And so it then goes, oh, okay, you want Humanizer, so I know to look in my directory package props. Oh, and I see that version is 2.8.26 is the version that's referenced in the project. So I believe the problem is we went through and we are doing the build from the project, and the project isn't picking up this from the root, which is interesting. So the other part that's baffling me, that I'm not sure I fully understand. So this clearly did not do the restore correctly, right? Like that is somewhat problematic, and I think it has to do with the fact that we started our working directory in a level. Now this guy here, he does a git clone and a .NET run, and he runs in a working directory. Now the only difference between these two is the build agents. I I have a sinking suspicion that the key difference here is that it is wrong branch. That it's the fact that it's running on Linux, which would be very weird. However, it's the most likely differentiating factor going on here. So we're going to start with that and then see if maybe there is a difference. So I believe it's the use Windows, right? And typically, most of our agents have to run on Windows anyway, simply because this is a WPF project, right? We have Windows dependencies. However, there's nothing in this particular tool that necessarily would require Windows that I'm aware of, right? Maybe there's something extra in there, but let's give that a shot. So it figured out .NET 3.1, 3.1408's the latest release. Great, download, install. Right, it does all of that work for you. It's very simple, very easy. I have to say, the GitHub Action team went out of their way to try and make this as stupid simple as they possibly can. So my plan is hopefully to get all of the pipelines migrated over. There may be a little bit of changing of how the workflow works. So rather than like having an approval gate to go to the release, I think I might switch it over to do that based upon when tags are pushed, because the GitHub release already gens a tag. So it means with one button of create my release, it'll gen a tag. That'll kick an action. The action will push stuff out. So I'm kind of hoping to get to that point. Oh, interesting. So you'll note this built, it was able to download the icon data. Now it's updating that enum. Interesting. So there is something different about running under Ubuntu versus Windows with centralized package management. Okay. That feels like a potential bug report. I'm going to make a note. Because that is... I don't know if that... I will make sure that that is on the radar. Management with Linux does not properly restore. We will pick that one up. Okay, so look at that. It just works. It just, see that? Green circle. Green circle. That makes me so happy. This is here. Now, I would like to break this interaction. The problem is I don't think I have permission. That's disappointing. So you'll note I don't have like a settings tab here. And I'm pretty confident that it requires one. Let's double check. I think it does. So let's go to Xaml test, right? Something where I'm the owner. And I think you have to set it here. Branch protection rules. This one doesn't have any, which is not good. What would be something that would have branch protection rules that's using GitHub Actions? I don't think I have anything. Okay. Well, the important part is this worked flawlessly. It even detected that create pull request, right? So the only drawback here is checking base repository state. Fatal ref head is not a symbolic ref. Working base commit. Create or update set to pipeline origin. Remote. So it is checking it against the master branch. Compressing object, doing some giddy stuff to find it all out. Lots of outputs. Couldn't find remote ref. So it's using the git command line, write only, count, master, branch pipeline is not ahead of master and will not be created. Delete branch, boom, 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 and it just cleans it all up. That is gorgeous. More importantly, I didn't have to write any of that code. Mwah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, so I think what we want to do is now go back to pull requests. We're going to change the title from work in progress to GitHub action for icon update. Save. We're going to change this description here. GitHub action for forming icon update. So we're going to do that. And then the last thing I want to do is, I'm trying to decide. I don't really want it triggering on PRs. So, because that is not really a thing that should happen. So let's go back into our branch, into the workflows, icon update. You'll note, I don't think I've done any of this editing. So I'm going to turn this off like this, and I think it's going to just work once it merges. So we're gonna let this guy fly. Okay, so then we come back to the pull request. We go to here. We check the files changed. Make sure everything looks like as we expect. And so the one thing I want to do is I want to push a change to that enum and then verify that this thing actually works, right? Like we've proven it handles the case where there are no changes, right? So squash merge. Abuse my privileges because I don't need to wait for that other one to pass and or fail sporadically. Okay, so there's that. Now, if I go to Actions and I go to Icon Update, see, this is the button I wanted. That's the button. That's the button. Okay, so it's got that. It's got a trigger, and we should see it trigger every day at about 3 a.m. I assume that's UTC. I didn't actually look. Don't really care, right? As long as it triggers once a day at some hour during the day, that's what we're going for. Okay, so given that, let's go through and let's just make a change. I guess I got to, so whack that for the moment. That is interesting that is the Windows versus Linux. Okay, so on master, right? GitHub Actions. I don't need this local branch anymore. Poof, gone. And ICO generator got merged, so we can get rid of that too. Poof. Okay, so there is that. That gets me into there. Sorry, what did I say I was going to do? Oh, we wanted to go and make a change to that enum and verify that it does, in fact, get picked up. So we are going to, pack icon kind, and let's just whack abacus because A, right? Pack icon data factory, and we are going to whack abacus, right? So this should be a, and we are just going to cowboy this straight into master. Testing icon update. Boom, there, push. Right? So that goes thinking. Any day now. Perfect. Okay. Generally, I try to avoid pushing straight into master, but in the interest of not being bored out of my mind, we're going to roll with this. So now we're going to run our workflow. Click the button. It's going to go and run. and it's going to go do its thing. And we'll let it go. So check it out. Let's check and see where this is going. Okay, so did that. Did the build and run. Oh, I should probably rename this from build. It's kind of misleading. We can fix that. We can fix the name. And updating enum. And hopefully once this gets done, and part of why this takes so long is it's slowly getting to be a big map problem. At some point, I should probably consider updating the speed of the tool because it's kind of brute forcing its way through. I mean, and you can see here, it's 6,000 total icons in here, right? But not all of these are unique individual icons. Some of these are aliases for the icons. And so part of what it ends up doing is after it downloads the data, there's not too many of these, but occasionally there's been alias conflicts where like something will differ only by capitalization and the fact that we standardize the alias names to be C-sharpy like. There's been occasionally times where we've gotten dupes, which is the only time I've ever run into it. And I kind of suspect that wasn't intentional by the material design icon people because those problems tend to get resolved on their own. So I imagine that is the thing. So let's make sure it actually created pull request 2304. Oh, come on. Yes. Boom. Okay. This is a beautiful example of how it was significantly easier in GitHub Actions than on Azure DevOps. So, especially if your code is on GitHub, definitely look at GitHub Actions. So much of this, so easy, right? Update icons. It is interesting because of the white space doohickey on the YAML, right? This gen's like that. Whatever. I am not concerned that the old one had 2 lines here and this one has 1. Not even worth my time to look at, right? Not even worth it. So that is perfect. I am going to go here and I am going to take this pipeline and I am going to disable it. I don't want to get rid of it yet. Where is it under edit? Options. No, there's a, where's the disable? There is a straight up disable my pipeline thing. That ain't it. Let's see. Add to my favorites. Oh, come on. I know I just saw this. Security move. Maybe I just dropped the trigger. That would do the same thing as well. So no trigger to fire. And because these things generate stuff with opposite or with different commit messages, it'll be easy to pick out if that doesn't work the way I expect. And then more importantly, if we go and look here, we should see what the thing is, right? It's putting Abacus back, which is great. That is what we expect. Putting Abacus back at the beginning. Review changes, approve, submit. And away we go. So sweet. So absolutely sweet. Okay, so that got a lot of this done. I'm gonna actually let that thing finish. Okay. Let's see about, I kind of want to take a shot at the, let's do this control styles one. I think this is probably the next easiest one to pick on. Mostly because this thing's just kicking off a PowerShell task. And once again, this is a third-party thingy-mabobber. But I don't think this is going to be a big issue. So is Azure DevOps going to catch up with GitHub Actions? Actually, Robert, that unlikely. What is more likely to occur is a migration from DevOps into GitHub. The problem right now is Azure DevOps has a lot of features that appeal very strongly to a lot of enterprise customers. And so GitHub Enterprise is working on making sure that they have at least a reasonable migration strategy and reasonable feature parity to get on par with it. So I would imagine what is you're likely to see instead is fewer investments in Azure DevOps and a lot more investments in GitHub and GitHub Enterprise. Specifically GitHub Enterprise, right? Microsoft isn't going to throw away money, and they aren't going to leave, their biggest customers high and dry, right? That's a bad idea. So it's not anything that I would say, panic and move and switch right now, right? Like, it's more slower than that. But yeah, I would expect to see that migration occur. Okay, let's see if we can do this wiki updater one. This doesn't seem hard at all. So we're gonna go actions again. I've been doing so good at doing it just straight from here, so let's keep going. And I don't actually remember. Okay, so I'm gonna clear some of this stuff. Don't care. There. I kind of want to go and look at what is in this PowerShell because I don't quite remember what it's doing. Once again, I would not mind using the Linux agents. I just can't remember what's in them. You don't appear to have that script. And I'm kind of wondering if it should be a script or if it should be... Because part of the reason for putting in a script in the first place was because the pipeline lived over in DevOps. This gave a way for outside contributors to easily, modify the pipeline, right? Yeah, I was going to say, I recall that there was a bunch in here. This was a Hacktoberfest contribution because I had done kind of a first rev at this, and there was a couple people I think that threw in, if my memory's correct on this, and did a significant amount of work, which has been great. I think we just leave it as a script. I don't really feel like there's a lot here. I don't really feel like mucking with that, so we're gonna leave it as a script. But given that, I guess I should have paid slightly more attention to that. I don't see that there's a lot in here. So base URL. I guess I'm curious, what is is it doing Git stuff? How is it? No, that base URL is for themes full directory. Got it. So it doesn't care. It assumes it's in a checked out location with all of the source code. It assumes that it knows the folder in which it can find all of the theme dictionaries, which is great. It then makes some assumptions on iteration. That's all fine, right? That works. Okay. So I don't need to. So yeah. So let's once again. We're just gonna go with. I don't even know if I need .NET, right? But we're gonna. That was a reasonable template to start with. So here we go. So this is going to be, I'll say, on a push to master, right? And then we're going to do workflow dispatch like we did before, just so I can manually kick this guy off if we want to, because this isn't a bad thing. We'll let it still be on Ubuntu because we're not compiling, so that should be fine, right? We don't need to set up .NET. That's not a thing that matters. We don't need, frankly, any of that, right? And then here, if I remember right, it was shell, right? And then, oh, that's right. That's the other cool thing. Control space, boom, you get IntelliSense. That's why I've been editing these YAMLs in the browser, because there's IntelliSense. And it's actually good IntelliSense. Woo, that's exactly what I wanted. Okay, so this gets to be pretty easy. I would like to execute this script. So run the script. Yeah, something like that. I don't think I need the double backslash here, and because it's Linux, I actually think I need it like that. Okay. Let's see. Let's fix the name. How about Wiki update control styles? Something more like that. And then what we need next is I need something that will do a wiki update. So actually, let's just, while we're here, wiki, boom. Sync a wiki folder with your GitHub wiki. Boy, that sounds exactly like what I would like to do. Let's see here. Sync the repo. I think this is what I want, but I kind of want to see it in big mode. So update wiki runs sync wiki example wiki folder. Yeah, so this isn't quite what I was hoping for. I don't want a full sync. I want one file changed. I'm just a little worried that this is... so I've also contemplated pulling the wiki out and putting it inside of just a docs folder. Because the problem with the GitHub wiki is there's not a review workflow built into it, right? There's no pull requests. And so a lot of repos, they stop using the GitHub wiki and they just dump it in a docs folder, specifically so that you can get kind of that review workflowy stuff. I've left it in the wiki here because this is editable by everyone, right? And I directly put a foot on here. If you see a mistake or want to contribute, please feel free, right? And you'd think that that would get abused. And occasionally I have to go back and revert someone's commit. But for the most part, it's actually, most of the contributions are really good. Action to create a GitHub wiki page based on provided Markdown file. This is more like, yeah, so show me this one. This sounds a little bit more like what I want. Common usage. Content Markdown wiki pages that must be generated on a previous step located in a specific folder. This action scans the folder, adds its files, and finally publishes them to the wiki. This is exactly what I want. Please note, requires your wiki to own at least one page in the wiki section. Okay. Check. Got that. Because the only way to access your repository is for organization is an SSO. I wonder why I can't use the built-in one. Action mail. Email used to push new wiki pages. So this is not that different than mine. I'm just wondering if it makes more sense, because this guy here is basically just doing a push. But this looks like, or this guy here looks a lot more like what I would expect. See, upload release notes to wiki, right? This is basically what I want. Yeah, this looks a little more akin to. Let's just bring this. Let's bring this guy in and see how it goes. Okay, so paste. Indent. Okay, upload. Let's go with control styles to Wiki. Okay, and then this wants to use secrets GitHub pad. I don't believe we need that. If we do, I can go get the access to the service account and generate a pat there, but there was yeah. There's a built-in secret, the GitHub token secret. That's what I want. Right? This is what I want to use. I think. Yeah, so I don't know that this one is going, and based on the docs here, it seems to indicate that this one won't work, but you know what? We're going to go with it. Okay, and then, yeah, we'll squash merge this beast in. I want to grab the account information. So that's hiding there. What we are going to do is grab the same account we used just a second ago. So workflow, icon update. I want this display name. So that goes in name. I want this in my email. That goes here. Organization. So this is actually the org. Boom. I'm sorry, what? Oh, it. And then the repo is there. And what we haven't specified is a file. Skip MDs. Wiki push message. So I do want to specify this. And let's look over here. Automatic update. And we're going to just change this guy from Azure to GitHub. From GitHub action, right? So we'll go there. And then translate underscore to space. That's not really what we care for. To scan for Markdown files. So we do need to specify an MD folder. Let's bring this up there. And if we look, it's going to scan the scripts directory, which I believe is okay. Because the scripts directory isn't going to contain any extra Markdown files. In fact, it's going to end up killing off. I should probably go through and kill the Azure YAML files. I think that is everything we need. And it just works, right? First time out the gate. Oh, let's do control styles. Right, and start commit. Let's create a new branch. Where did we see? I don't know if this is going to trigger. Let's just put it straight into master. Control styles. GitHub action. Yeah, sure, straight into master. What could possibly go wrong, right? So you'll note it triggers. Huzzah. It's kind of what its point in life was. And we're off to the races. In the back of my mind, I am wondering if I am going to need to go and log into GitHub with that account. but we shall see. So it's doing a bunch of stuff. It's generating a bunch of stuff. Okay. Oh, so we did not rename the thing properly. It's still called test, so need to fix that. It did appear to run the script because it did find all of the relevant bits, showing plenty of debug output of all the styles it's generating. Great, great, great. Lots of output. Everyone loves lots and lots and lots of output, which is great. I would rather too much rather than too little, especially on a pipeline. This guy here, let's see. So it did a whole bunch of stuff. Could not read password. See, and that's what I was kind of wondering if that was going to happen. So I think this is coming down to the idea of the access token. Oh, and I just realized I can't even generate up the secret. Oh. Because I don't have access to where those live. So demonstration for those people. So I will need a different one for that. Here, we'll just, so for people wanting to know where this is, and the issue is only my access, right? Because I don't have this tab, teeny little tab over here. But if you come down here to secrets, right? So you'll note this library does use some GitHub Actions, right? And I've got my NuGet API key in here, which is great, right? I can now use this as part of my GitHub Actions. I don't necessarily have to worry about people gaining access to this, right? But, and you can use it inside of the YAML files, but then GitHub is responsible for making sure that, this doesn't leak, right? Now, there's obviously ways you could do various forks, right? So they warn you very explicitly, people with collaborator access to the repository can use these secrets, right? Yeah, they are not passed to workflows that are triggered from pull requests of a fork, right? So you don't want secrets needed for validating PRs from outside stuff. But usually you shouldn't be using secrets for that anyway, right? PRs from forks are expected to, does it compile? Do all of my tests run, right? Usually if you need some sort of like end-to-end test things, that's what the environments are for, so that you can, bring it in, work it across, that kind of thing. And yeah, I don't have environments. I just have repository level secrets, at least for this one. So this guy is going to need one. However, I could generate it. I just can't store it. So I guess that means we're kind of stuck on this one a little bit. Let's pull up on master real quick. We don't need that branch anymore. Knock that one out. I do want to go through and fix. There's a couple things that we noticed were wrong here, right? So let's open this guy and let's see here. So if I bring both of you guys into VS Code, there was some renaming we wanted to do. Run icon generation, right? So I wanted to fix the name of that. And then this guy down here, let's see. Generate control styles markdown. All right, so we'll we'll make those a little more explicit. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a name for this. I'm trying to think if I should. I think what we're going to do is also this. Is I'm going to turn off the auto run of this for the moment. Because without the ability to set a secret, the fact that I have access to generate that pat is no good to me. So I will have to message the owner and ask him to please go and put it in. I'll probably go and gen the token for him and say, here it is. Please insert into the appropriate place, because we both have access to this account. Okay. So there is all of that. We're just going to cowboy this one straight into it. Master again, updating GitHub action step names. Boom. So we will go with that. We will go with that. With that, I think we've got at least two of the things brought over. I'm trying to decide if part of me wants to go and attack the main build pipeline. And part of me wants to avoid that, just because as soon as I attack the main build pipeline, I also have to address the release pipeline at the same time, and I think that one's going to take more time than I have tonight. I think with that, I may wrap up a little early tonight. I think so. And then we can circle back and try more next time. So I guess quick final thoughts on all of this. GitHub Actions, the more I use them, the more I love them. So definitely highly recommended, especially being able to do this kind of stuff of just building them out. There is one important limitation to know about with GitHub Actions is you can't chain them, right? Kind of to prevent an infinite recursion type problem. You can't have one GitHub action necessarily trigger another one. Right, so there is a small kind of hiccup there. The expectation is that in general, those cases where you need to chain them together, the running, you usually just end up merging those workflows into one YAML file, because you have the ability to do things like strategies and environments, and typically most of those cases where you would trigger one thing into the next, it just, you put those all together, because if they are intricately linked like that, you probably want all of them together. The only other limitation of GitHub Actions that I'm aware of is DevOps has a really slick YAML templating pipeline. I don't doubt that something like that is probably coming to GitHub at some point, because it is totally awesome to be able to have YAML templates. And let me look. I don't think... Yeah, it doesn't look like it. The last time I looked for it, it wasn't available yet. But again, GitHub is pushing for strong feature parity with Azure DevOps, so it will not surprise me to see some of that coming in the future. So with that, I think I'm going to say thank you very much for coming in and hanging out. As always, happy coding. We'll do it again next week. Thanks all.